Here we are on our first podcast.
Yes.
And our intention for this podcast is to deliver something very unique and different. Most podcasts, in my experience, concentrate on new information or relating information in new ways. This podcast is going to be quite different. I'm very interested in what happens relationally as we interact with different content or as we interact with different information. And if you're familiar with embodied relational practices such as circling or authentic relating or nonviolent communication, this might sound interesting to you. It might actually even sound familiar to you. So essentially, what we're going to be trying to do is talk about certain themes and things that are relevant to authentic relating and circling, as well as nervous system regulation and how nervous system regulation interacts with health and communication, things like that. And we're going to try to do such through the relational field. So I noticed myself just being really self-conscious about how I'm talking too much and you're over here. And I'm curious, what's the impact for you on me presenting all that right now?
I am feeling anxious about the whole thing. And I was having a hard time even listening to you and wondering if I should be looking at the camera or the floor or to you. So just completely out of place at this moment.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're attempting to do with this podcast. And my curiosity is, when you name that in this moment, is there anything that changes?
Yes. I am now relaxed. I feel like I've announced myself.
Beautiful.
That's what it feels like. So I am here, I am with you, and I'm with the third person.
Beautiful. Thank you for mentioning the third person. When you started talking, I immediately dropped into myself and I felt like, oh, okay, I'm no longer here alone. So cool. And Manak, you mentioned a third person. And indeed, there is a third person. You, the person who's watching this, the audience that this is going out to, we fully intend to include you in our circle as we are doing this podcast. We don't exactly know how we're going to do that and what exactly that means. But I'm really curious what happens in a podcast interview when that audience is front and center and part of the conversation, at least in story. Because I have a story that the audience wants certain things, thinks certain things, and that story might not be accurate at all. So we'll play around with that and see how accurate it is.
Yeah, and the only story that I have about the third person in the room is that they want to be more connected to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that I am projecting on them and nothing else.
How beautiful. I can track with that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So this episode, we wanted to talk about the 3 levels of conversation. And the 3 levels of conversation are the information level, the story level, or kind of the communication level, and then the relational level. And these are levels that you and I are fairly familiar with, in that we operate in these levels when we do AR and when we circle, especially the 3rd level. And I'm curious, do you have anything to add right off the bat?
Yes, I actually have a question, because this one thing isn't clear to me about these 3 levels.
Yeah.
Is the difference between the first 2 levels.
Okay.
So the information level and the story level. I understand the relational level, and I guess we'll go into that a little bit more. But yeah, what is the difference between those first 2 levels?
Yeah. So when you say that, I notice in me this anxiety come up that is hesitant to jump right into distinguishing between the first and the second level without a whole overview of all three levels.
Okay.
Am I off base there?
No. I think that's the right setting for it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the first level, the informational level, is the facts and details that we communicate to each other. So we're sitting here on a Friday afternoon. It's 4:25 p.m. We're in Regina, Saskatchewan. And my name's Dr. Node Smith.
And I'm Manak Singh.
And this is an informational conversation. This is the conversation that oftentimes, my story is that people are not happy with this level of conversation. That they want to go deeper. They want to have more meaningful conversations than just talking about the weather.
Yeah, I definitely get that. In my experience, it is the information level of conversations that can be draining sometimes.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's the information level conversations that allow us to maintain our social mask. Right? So when I'm scared about being in conversation, when I'm anxious, it becomes really easy for that information to serve as a mask because I don't have to put any emotional content into it.
Yeah, that definitely jives with me. It feels like we hide behind information. We hide behind the everyday details.
Yeah. And for me, when I'm in a conversation that's just information level material, I often will get to a point where I start feeling really anxious inside. And I almost feel like I am abandoning myself. Like I don't care about this. And it's at that point that the informational level of a conversation becomes kind of a nuisance or a problem. When I don't want to be in that level anymore.
You know what? It feels like you just explained why that level is challenging for me too. Mm-hmm. I'd never thought about it that way. I'd never given it those words, but as soon as you say that, it resonates with me.
Yeah. Moving on?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So what's coming up for me now is the story level, the conversational level of communication or conversation, that second level. I think it's the level that annoys me the most.
I'd love to hear this.
Well, so this second level of conversation is all about story. It's all of the emotional content of past and future. And so it's the things that I have built up in my mind that mean things, right? But don't actually have any inherent meaning for you. So if I tell you a story about, well, yeah, my mom and I, we went to dinner the last time she was up here, and I felt so good to be with her, and it was just so fun, and we don't see each other that often, and I'm an only child, and so me and my mom have this really special bond. How does that land with you in terms of feeling connected to me in this moment?
Not very well, because right now it's all about you.
Yeah, it's all about me.
Yeah, so I don't feel, even though you're sharing this information with me, I still do not feel connected to you.
Yeah, it's like my story, and it has to do with something that doesn't have anything to do with you, and it doesn't have anything to do with right now, because I'm talking about a past event, right? So that's the story level. The catch with the story level is, well, I'm gonna let how does that description impact you?
I agree with it, and what it makes me think is that for the longest time, I thought the story level was the deepest level.
I'm so glad that I did not. I'm so happy right now. I'm I'm like a little kid that just won a prize. Because I was gonna say that, and I'm so glad that you got the opportunity
Okay,
to.
great.
Absolutely. Why do you think that is?
In my case, I don't think I have a deep reason for that. In my case, it's because I didn't know any better. I thought the story level is the level where you're sharing your emotions, and that's the deepest it gets.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know that there was another level until I got used to these activities like circling and authentic relationship.
Yeah. Is it all right if I add kind of my psychoanalytic perspective
Oh, yes.
on why this is?
Everything is welcome.
Yeah, okay. So I think that story is often what people mean when they say, "Oh, I wish I could just go deeper into conversation," because it's what supports our ego. We have a visitor at the door at this time.
Yeah, let her join the podcast.
We'll let you want to join our podcast? Are you sure?
No.
No?
I was like, I don't want to laugh. What if he's
We're-
in the middle? Are you literally in the
We're
middle?
literally in the middle.
No.
No? Okay.
Hi, Leanne.
Hi, Leanne.
What's your podcast on today?
The 3 levels of conversation. Yeah. It's pretty swell.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Awesome.
Yeah, we might leave this in just for you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, see you later.
Yeah. Well, we have a fourth person apparently.
Yeah, well, I at least said multiple third persons.
Yeah.
So we're talking about story and how story,
You were going to give us psychoanalytic.
it's how story supports the ego.
Right.
Yeah. So my past and my future, right? I use my past and my future, the stories and the memories and my understanding of reality to support my ego structure. So it's a very personal aspect of kind of how I relate to myself. And just like all ego supports, they can be inaccurate and they can not be serving us in all areas. And so I think that even though we think that that's going deeper, it often ends up feeling very superficial because it feels very individual, kind of personal. Like, well, I got my stuff off my chest. I got to tell somebody about my emotional content, but maybe I didn't get anything from them, so that connection wasn't really made.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I hear that, my ego is resisting because I think my ego is saying, no, this is important. This is the most important thing. My story is the most important thing for me. So if you don't want to see my story, then what in the world should I be communicating to you? Like, what do you want to know? Do you even want to know me?
Oh,
So I feel like this huge resistance in me when I hear it.
so when I hear you say that, my whole heart just like opens up and I say, oh yeah, I want to know more about that discomfort in this moment.
I feel hot and I just feel like I want to get out of this chair. It's just so uncomfortable to sit in this chair because it's like, I can't accept this.
Oh yeah.
I can't accept this.
Okay.
That my story is that my story could be inaccurate, that my story could not be serving me, and that my story is not even me. So I feel very displaced. Like, okay, I don't know where I am at anymore.
I'm curious, what happens if we welcome that feeling of being displaced?
Just makes me smile.
And it makes you smile.
Yeah.
And now we're in the 3rd level of relating. Okay.
Yeah.
A question for you: How connected do you feel right now?
More connected than at any point in this conversation.
Yeah. Because we just started communicating about what is happening right here and now between you and I. It's not a story. It's not information that's just kind of, out there. It's real and it's right now. And even though it might be uncomfortable, right? You're not describing something that sounds to me like it's overly comfortable. However, if I can be with you in it and allow you to have that experience and communicate with you in that field, then all of a sudden we're connecting on what's the most real thing in your life right now.
So what I noticed was that I communicated to you how I felt right now.
Yeah.
And you're saying that is the third level.
That's the third level. It's communicating on what's happening between you and I right now. And that can include thoughts, right?
Okay.
Right? It can include emotions and it can include stories, but often those stories will be very, very pertinent to you and I right now. Yeah.
Okay. It involves you as well.
Absolutely.
As much as it involves me.
It involves, yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, because you and I are sharing this moment together, as well as the audience.
I wonder how the audience felt as they saw me throw a tantrum and drop down to the third level.
Right? When you say it like that, I have this vision of like the third level of hell. maybe we don't want to go there? No, we do want to go there.
It definitely does feel like some sort of a fire you go through. Like you have to go through some resistance to, or at least in my case, I feel like I had to go through some resistance to drop down to that.
Yes. With certain people, I find it's a little bit easier than with other people. Yeah. I think the more intimate our relationships are and the higher the stakes are, the more difficult it is to communicate our like raw sensory experience in the moment.
Could you, what do you mean by high stakes? What would be a high stakes situation?
Oh yeah, like a high stakes situation would be like, well, if something goes wrong in this interaction, then like I'm gonna lose sex, I'm gonna lose money, I'm gonna lose like, stability in my life in some way.
I see.
Right?
Okay, there are consequences where the conversation's going wrong.
Yeah.
That's what you mean by high stakes.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Right? Like you and I, like, if this blows up, I mean, we're getting to be pretty good friends, and so it feels a little higher stakes. But when we go to an AR group and a new person shows up, that's a low stakes environment. Like if they don't have a good time, they don't come back. That's great.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, it is a low stakes environment, which makes it the perfect practice ground.
It's the perfect practice ground
to practice these skills.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the three levels.
Those are the three levels. And it's not that one is worse or better than the other. It's that practicing embodied relational practices invites us to stay in the third level as much as we can.
Okay.
So in this moment, I've noticed myself like I'm super uncomfortable in these stupid chairs, right? And just want to move. And I'm noticing that I want to know how much more time we have to talk.
I'm noticing wanting to see the timer, but I'm not going to.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what is it like for you to just voice these really, these moment-to-moment arisings?
It feels freeing and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It feels freeing for obvious reasons because I don't feel constricted in any way, but it feels dangerous because I almost don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it's going to land on other people in the room. Ooh. And so that is the dangerous element in that sort of state.
Yeah. And that's, when I hear you say that, what comes up for me is this is the importance of honoring myself in these processes, in these practices. So if I honor myself and other people are agreeing to honor themselves, then I don't have to worry about how what I say lands so much, because I'm going to get honest feedback if that's required, if that's necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if I know that you can take care of yourself, you can regulate,
Yeah.
and you're in this interaction consciously, then I do not have to worry so much about what's going to come out of my mouth. I'm just going to stay with the impact, stay with you,
Yeah.
and the impact of that, of what I said.
Yeah. And that, I mean, when I hear you say that and we talk about this, and I think about, okay, yeah, relating in this way with other people, practicing this, you know, it's beautiful. It's a real, it doesn't feel safe in the same way as I hear people talk about kind of safe environments. It feels held and contained. You know, it feels like my messiness can actually show up, and I don't have to spend so much emotional energy figuring out the perfect way to interact.
And in my experience as well, in these practices, and I'm quite new to this, maybe just a couple of months in, I feel so surprised by some of the things that come out, but in a very nice and loving way. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was inside me. Like, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could be so honest. I didn't know I could be so forthright. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be a stretch to say that allowing myself to unfold that way, I feel more love for myself.
Oh. When I hear you say that you feel more love to yourself, my heart just like opens. I just feel so happy, so joyous that something so simple could be so impactful.
It surprises me to this day. And despite all that, despite all my experiences having been positive with these practices, there's this another thought that comes up. Okay, here's the ego again. And the ego would like to know, can this ever blow up in my face?
When you say that, I feel this like kind of like ball of energy in my chest. And I won't say that it's anxiety, it's just there. It's just kind of like this awareness of like apprehension maybe. And the image that comes up for me is like surfing a big wave, and like, you know, that you could biff it at any time and just end up underwater, like, you know. And that's not the greatest scenario, but it's possible. And it also is not going to keep you from surfing, right? It's not going to keep you from going out in the water.
I love it. I love it. When I hear that, what I hear is that you're not saying that there's no risk involved here.
There's always a risk.
But what you're saying is one chooses to accept the risk to get the benefits of these practices.
I think so. Yeah. And, you know, we've talked a lot about this, you and I, for sure. And these practices aren't therapy. You know, that I consider these practices to be what's kind of after therapy. In the sense that it takes a certain degree of ability to enter into practices like this with other people, a certain skillfulness in regulating one's nervous system, regulating oneself when they do get triggered, right? So like when I feel uncomfortable or feel anxious, especially if, you know, around certain kinds of people, am I able to regulate myself? And if I can, you know, if I've done the internal personal work and understand kind of different parts of myself and how they interact with the outside world, and so those things are uncomfortable for me, of course, but they're not, it's just coming out of left field and surprising me, right? And then putting me into a reactive pattern. These relational practice groups are a wonderful opportunity to be able to practice a lot of the things that we learn in therapy, in one-on-one therapy, in a group of people who are likewise usually versed in some kinds of therapy. They speak that language in a way where we can get messy and we can practice being more of our whole authentic selves and get dirty, if it comes to that, right? Have a little bit of conflict, have those uncomfortable things come up in us so that we can see how we actually respond in relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. When you were saying that, became acutely aware of this third person in the room, and the third person saying, "Yeah, this sounds exciting and fun and good in theory,
Yeah,
but I'm scared to take the first step.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I should be doing this. I don't know why I should be putting myself in this. You didn't say it was unsafe, but you didn't call it safe either.
Yeah.
So why am I putting myself in this sort of a relational environment?" And I'm wondering what you have to say to that.
So I would actually say that if you need to be convinced that this is something of value, it's probably not for you. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of people out in our world who are starved for connection at this level. That they hear that there's an opportunity to come into contact with other people who are trying to be their more whole, more authentic selves. They hear language like, this isn't a safe place, it's a brave space where everything's welcome. And they resonate with it. And, those are individuals who probably are regulating themselves at a more, higher skill level. They're not getting triggered by just everything that they come across, in the world. And so they can interact in a group like this with people that might have different religious beliefs, different political orientations, different sexual orientations, and that's not a problem, right? Or even that they actually want to interact with individuals who think differently than themselves, because it gives them a wider perspective of reality.
I know that in my own personal scenario, it is exactly as you said it. I had not heard about authentic relating or circling. I knew what authenticity was.
Yeah.
And I had been on that road for a couple of years. So yeah, I don't know what this was, and as soon as I heard it, my body said yes.
Yeah.
For sure. It was yes.
Me too.
No matter what I run into, no matter who I run into,
Yeah.
no matter what happens.
Yeah, me too. And it builds a skill of being able to communicate about our real-time context, our real-time sensations, emotions, thought, the workings of our thinking instead of the content of our thinking. And in that respect, it's incredibly valuable, for sure. And so people who get into it often feel that there's a certain therapeutic value, but it's secondary. The primary objective is quite literally just to be in connection with other people.
I would like to focus more on that part, because when I go through these practices, I'm very acutely aware of the therapeutic effects it's having on me. And some of them are more self-love, increased ability to be with myself, even when I'm alone, and just more aware of my body and somatic sensations. They're just more connected to my body. These are maybe almost all of them. There might be more that I'm not aware of. I'm curious about this connection piece, because in my experience, I get into these groups, I do the activities, and then we disconnect. And I'm left feeling like, I don't know anything about that person.
Hmm.
I knew who they were in that moment. You were sharing space, but I know nothing else.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I'm wondering how that connection piece. It's a horrible way to word it, but how do you find your need for connection satisfied in such interactions?
That's so curious that you bring that up. The first thing that comes up to me is how interesting. Like I laugh at this. That in a lot of ways, I have this story that authentic relating is like a great way for introverts to interact. For kind of that reason, right? It's like, okay, I can go and just connect with people and have that nervous system co-regulation, but I don't have to call them the next day. It's like, because there is that level of like humanity needs connection. We need connection with other people, but that doesn't mean that I need to be obligated to spend all my time with another person or one other person, or it doesn't mean that I need to be obligated to another person.
Right.
And that is also a big part of authentic relating circling.
I see. Nice. So that is true for me. It does take out that obligation piece.
Yeah.
It does take out the small talk piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a very, I know I've already called it dangerous, but it is in some sense also a very safe way of connecting.
Yes.
And you do not have to give out any personal information.
No.
So in that sense, it is safe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, yeah.
Okay, so those are the three levels.
Those are the three levels.
You got the information level, you got the story level, and then you got the relational level.
Yeah. And I think they call it, that second level they call like the communication level, the story level, the personal level, I think they call it sometimes. Yeah. You could call it all kinds of different things. And then the third level, it's the relational level, but it's the context. It's the immediate present moment context of conversation.
I would like to know what interested you to access this relational level. Like it seems to me like we've known each other for a while, and it's a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting question to even ask. What percentage of your day are you at the relational level? So I want to know like why you got started and why it's become a big part of your life.
Yeah. I've always been it's like I've always been a truth seeker and trying to look past my own thinking. And so, yeah, I've always just tried to orient to what is true. And the most true thing is what's happening right now. And so what's the most true thing for me right now is a little bit of anxiety in answering this question in like a really concise way. And I have all these thoughts about how I should answer this and how, I can connect, my story to the audience and to you. And, there's a little bit of performer there that says like, oh yeah, you gotta, present yourself really well on camera and all this stuff. Okay. And that's real. Like that's what's happening right now. The story, my history and the, years in school and all the books I've read and books, all of that, is essentially meaningless. It doesn't mean anything for right here and right now. It's not who I am.
Now that I'm hearing you say that, there is no tantrum at all. I just feel like a child that just wants to take his clothes off and just run around.
Yeah. Nice.
And I also realized as you were saying that how uncomfortable I am as well. I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna hate watching the recording and watch myself keep talking and just not knowing where to look.
Right?
And that is my truth, ladies and gentlemen, for this episode. I just do not know where to look.
We're learning. We're like figuring this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.